Alright everybody, today we're going to be looking at Catching a Big Fish, the post-fight analysis breakdown of Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence "Bud" Crawford. The jab was always going to be the key for Errol Spence Jr., but it was actually Terence Crawford who would use the step to his lead side, being southpaw versus southpaw, to be able to open up an angle for a potential overhand left, straight left, or just to use the jab to circle, even though it would circle him towards the power of the truth. In here you'll see by circling to the lead side, Crawford opens himself up for the overhand left from Spence. Here is what a lot expected from Spence for the majority of the fight, was to dictate it by using that lead hand jab, and he did so there. I've talked about rear side counters in equal stances, and you'll see there off the left hand of Spence, Crawford circles to that rear side and opens up a pathway over the jab in order to land that straight left counter. Here you'll see Crawford out jabbing Spence as he's able to use the jab to circle to that lead side. I think the composure of Terence Crawford against the pressure fighting and inside fighting of Spence has to be mentioned, and it's something that people haven't talked about enough. Here you'll see a backstep counter jab from Crawford to catch Errol Spence as he leaves his chin exposed trying to jab to the body. Here again, Crawford is able to out jab the man who people thought would dictate the fight using his own jab. You'll see Spence here back Crawford up using the jab of his own, but as he double jabs, Crawford's able to follow up with an overhand left, a right hook to the body, and a right hook up top. Crawford was able to kind of beat Spence at his own game. You'll see there 1-2 hook to the body and a hook up top. The multi-shot combinations, the body work, and the inside fighting success was thought to come from Spence, but Crawford changed the answer to that question. The overhand left against the same stance Crawford was a big weapon for Errol Spence throughout the fight, and you'll see it showcased multiple times throughout the breakdown. The overhand left of Spence against the same stance fighter in Crawford not only shuts down the lead side angles and the success that he had with his jab early, but it also can cut off the power backhand setups. This clip here I used to just showcase Crawford's ability to stay composed in the pocket where Spence had his best moments or best pathways to victory in the fight. You'll see a beautiful cover counter here as he's able to cover the overhand left and follow up with the same side lead check hook that catches Spence with his chin in the air. The success and ability that Crawford showcased throughout the fight to be able to slip to the outside and counter the jab of Spence with his own jab was shocking to many people. Crawford's going to use the double jab there and then a back step to draw out the lead hand of Spence so he can throw that overhand left and follow up with a lead uppercut or a right hook, but it just misses Spence. And here you're going to see the jab of Crawford being able to dictate the pace as he stings Spence with it and knocks him back. In the lead up to the fight, we talked about Crawford's ability to switch up combinations and go with a cross into a lead jab instead of the 1-2. That was showcased here tenfold as Crawford was able to throw the 2 and then pop in with the 1 off a brief stance change or squaring of the stance to add power to the jab, which caused the first knockdown. In touching back on Spence's lack of defense off level changing jabs, you see it there as Crawford's able to briefly parry the jab and then slip off to the rear side angle to land the 2 into the jab, which caused the knockdown. There was varying levels of defense which Crawford used, and you'll see here as he parries with the rear hand and then pivots off the lead side while using a high guard to block the overhand left, which was a big weapon as we touched on earlier for Spence. Just look at the composure of Crawford here as Spence throws a big overhand and tries to rip to the body and then go back up top. And even in the 50-50 position, Crawford wasn't having it and stayed composed in order to land an uppercut into a straight into a hook. Here, the jab is allowing Crawford to move laterally, as we touched on earlier, to potentially set up the straight left. Again here with the composure as he rolls the lead hook, slips the jab, and then rolls the rear hook to get off the ropes. The lack of defense again from Spence with the level changing jab allows for the rear side 2 into the 1, a Crawford specialty. Here again, Crawford wins the jab battle by using the lead hand to circle off to that lead side. The 2-1 is used here from Crawford again as he backstep counters into the 2, squares up the stance, and pops Spence's head back with the jab. I liked Crawford's ability here to go with the lead hook to the body, then go to a shoulder bump to bump off and backstep counter or pull counter into the 2, and then fire off that lead jab. This clip actually showcases Crawford's ability to switch stance as he throws that straight left, squares up the stance into orthodox, and then fires off a right cross. And the stance changing was a special ability or a weapon of Spence that he wasn't able to use much throughout the fight at all. You could tell Crawford was gaining more confidence here as he backstep jabs, then follows up with around 3 more jabs to go with the overhand, an uppercut, a hook to the body, and then back out of range. I'm again going to praise Crawford's defensive ability here, as Spence opens with the jab and tries to go with a hook to the body, but Crawford's able to pivot off to that lead side to open up an angle for the jab, but also get away from the body shot. Watch here as Crawford frames off that rear hook and is able to land an uppercut and then back out of range to avoid the body shot, but also use that lead hand frame to get off to the lead angle. We talked about Crawford gaining confidence, and you'll see here with about a 5 or 6 punch combination as he knows he can back Spence up, and Spence can't deal with the power as Crawford is now known to be the much more powerful fighter. Here again, the overhand left from Spence over the jab of Crawford, which we touched on multiple times. You'll see Crawford's footwork ability here as he enters with the double jab and throws the overhand left, but steps off to that rear side angle to open up a pathway for the body shot, then shuck him off with the lead shoulder and throw that rear hook to the body as well. You're going to see defense here again from Crawford with the lead hand frame to circle off to that lead side and avoid the body shot. Here, the multiple jabs from Crawford are used to be able to switch into a same side hook and then set up the pathway for the straight left down the middle. Rear hand parry, outside slip, and pivot off the lead side to be able to avoid the shots of Spence. The 2 off the double jab is going to open up an angle for that lead body shot, and it catches Spence flush. Masterful work here from Crawford with the back step, rear 6 or uppercut, the lead hand frame and pivot, and then the jab to circle off the ropes. A beautiful pull counter 2 here from Crawford as Spence jabs up top and tries to go to the body, but we've touched on his defensive inefficiencies off the level change already. Here you're going to see the parry into the counter cross on the same side, and then Crawford using the jab to circle off and direct Spence into another overhand. Again, Spence's defensive inefficiencies off the level change allows for the straight left and the jab right after, but followed up by more punches as we talked about Crawford gaining confidence and allowing him to unload. Crawford is stealing all of Spence's weapons as now the overhand left off the lead hand frame is landing at will for him, and that seemed to be one of the only weapons that Spence could possibly have some success with once the fight got going. Crawford's going to backstep and pivot off that lead side to land a double right hook that catches Spence clean and drops him bad. Crawford was even starting to pick up on the overhand and develop counters as he catches Spence on the level change with that uppercut, which led into one of 2 knockdowns in round 7. Everything Crawford is landing at this point is hurting Spence. You'll see a double jab to an overhand left to a backstep double right hook, which is going to direct Spence into another left hand potentially. Another example of the power difference here with the parry and outside slip into a double jab that's rocking Spence every time it lands. And now in the final round, Spence is going to try to shoulder bump, but Crawford slips again to that rear side angle and follows up with a lead right hook. And the finishing sequence encompasses the rear side angle fully as Spence gets caught with another lead right hook. Crawford tries to land an overhand left, but uses that to frame into another lead right hook and a brief barrage, but the ref steps in and stops the fight, declaring Terence Crawford the winner. If you enjoyed my post-fight analysis on Spence versus Crawford, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and smash that notification bell with an overhand left.